Well, good evening, everybody. This is
Wow.
State Representative Brad Halbrook with State Reps Dan Caucus and Chris Miller. And we got to maybe have a softer ending to that intro video music there. It just kind of cuts right off there. So, anyhow, well, maybe we can work on that. We'll have our tech team go to work right on that. Our crack tech team go right to work on that first thing in the morning. How are you, gentlemen?
Very well, thanks.
Good.
Doing well.
That's awfully nice of you to ask. You're actually the first person to ask me how I was today, so thanks for asking.
Yeah, well, I know you all had a busy weekend, and we had a bit of excitement in the group, and so yeah, it's just kind of the way it goes. So it's all good.
It was great.
Yeah. So hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. As we always say, this is a safer, a smarter alternative to anything else out there that you could find on Sunday night. And you join us because we are always in a relentless pursuit of the truth. Now, Chris and Dan, some might think that we're bringing a new definition to the word mediocrity. I don't know exactly what they mean.
No, we're pointing out. We're pointing out
We're
mediocrity. That's
We're pointing out mediocrity, right?
correct.
We're trying to be a good example to Tucker. See, if he had his own little network YouTube thing, he couldn't have been fired. So nobody can fire us.
Yeah, the only thing we got to worry about is the big tech overlords and their algorithmic gods, right? But he put out a little video the other day. I don't. What's he up to? Like 60 million views on that little video that he put out the other day. It's just
Probably.
Yeah.
He's the number one show in the nation and maybe the world, and they kick him off. It's kind of fun. So anyhow,
I was thrilled when we had 500.
Exactly.
I thought that was a miracle.
Yeah,
That is good. Yeah, well, I mean, a perfect example of the algorithms here. We were Friday night at a fundraiser for the local New Life, our New Life Pregnancy Center, and over 400 people packed the room, sold every table out, every chair was taken, a huge silent auction, really, really great live auction. So I went live for, I don't know, a minute or so just to let people know where we were and how many people were there. And I think I got like 8 views.
Okay.
8 views and 4 comments or something. And it's insane. It's just insane how they shadow ban us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. So that leads us to our next shameless plug. We always like you to like and subscribe and follow and share our content if you would be so kind. That helps us every bit. And of course, we're on YouTube in a couple different spots along with Facebook. So anyhow, appreciate all that. So guys, we had kind of a semi-busy week this week. I'm going to pull up a graphic here. I know we talked about this last Sunday night. Was this SB 1909 rally? And I think it was pretty well attended. It was a nice day. And but the bill got out of committee, right? And it's waiting on the House floor for further action. And I don't know what the shot is there of it getting passed, but I hope it has a really poor shot at getting passed. But I'm sure you guys will join me. We had several constituents up. I guess you guys will probably join me in thanking everybody that turned out for that rally. This is really, really an important thing.
Yeah, it was. It was a great group of people, very dedicated and very passionate about these pregnancy centers. I attended the hearing. Was a very what we expected, a very typical left-wing radical chairman of that committee. That's why they put the bill in that committee, I'm sure, why they put this lady in charge of that committee. And of course, we all know who the presenter was, and she was her ever pleasant self, just haranguing Dr. Howder and Jed for asking questions. There was an attorney from Kawami's office who was trying to think of a proper word. There might be children listening, and I don't want to get kicked off of here or get us kicked off. This lady was very unpleasant, and when our spokesperson of that committee, a minority spokesperson, Jackie Hawes, asked her a series of questions that the Thomas More Society had given her. There were 12 questions that the Thomas More Society wanted on the record, and this attorney refused to answer any of them. It was a very disrespectful show of hearing, and it was just shameful, actually.
Right.
But yeah, it'll pass. When you have the radical makeup of the House that we have and everything that they've done, parental rights, general neutral bathrooms, I mean, go on and on and on. Unfortunately, this will pass, and now Thomas More Society will take it to the Supreme Court and challenge it on the First Amendment. We'll spend time and money and effort to strike this law down when Governor Pritzker signs it with great fanfare.
Right.
And just denigrates Illinois in the nation.
Right. Yeah. Well,
I know another thing too, we did that press conference in Danville a few weeks ago, and I know that the initial committee hearing passed 4-1 to not allow that in that jurisdiction, but the full council is meeting on Tuesday night at 6:00, and I know some of our friends in Danville that were there at our press conference have asked us to come over there again. I have no idea whether that can happen, because I know we got committee meetings at 4, and it's, we probably need to be leaving at 4 to get to Danville by 6 from Springfield. So I just told them we would if we could, but
Chris,
that's coming up on Tuesday.
Chris, we need the chairman of the Illinois Freedom Caucus to submit a plan, a funding request for a Freedom Caucus helicopter. We need a Freedom Caucus helicopter.
If we put a wrap on a helicopter, it'd look really cool.
Yeah. If we can get a Freedom Caucus helicopter, it would certainly help. I know we've got some speaking events up north coming up. We could jump in there and get to Danville in about 35 minutes with your new helicopter.
Yeah.
They could get us all in one little happy package.
Yep.
Poof. What happened? Well, those guys are gone.
Maybe that's what they're doing out on the north side of the Capitol complex. They're building a helipad for us. You think maybe?
Yeah,
they got that in the capital plan, into the architectural plan for that.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I don't know if it was Chris or Dan mentioned about this is probably going to go right to court as soon as if it does pass and it does sign. I think Peter Breen spoke about First Amendment violations here and the like. We did see some victories Friday afternoon in federal court in Southern Illinois, Dan, on the gun stuff at the federal level.
Yep.
Temporary injunction by the federal judge there, Judge McGlynn, federal judge.
Yes. We have a statewide temporary injunction. McGlynn, essentially what he did is he enjoined the state from enforcing many aspects of that law. The Dems are pretty smart. They go in there and they put a little sentence in every law. If any part of this is deemed unconstitutional, it's called severability. The rest of it still stands.
Okay.
So you are not overturning the whole law because of that. But Judge McGlynn popped out his findings after oral arguments. I've listened to a couple of podcasts about it. I've read a couple of pieces of it, and he took his time. He wrote something I think is very scholarly, on point, and I think it will withstand scrutiny. The Attorney General scurried down there right away and filed a motion with Judge McGlynn to stay that ruling, to hold off on his temporary order. we haven't heard from Judge McGlenn because the plaintiffs have an opportunity, I think, to respond to that request.
Okay.
So, I don't know that Judge McGlenn will not. I can't imagine that he would overturn himself and put a hold on a ruling pending the circuit, appeal.
Right.
And the Attorney General has also sent an appeal immediately to the Seventh Circuit as well,
right,
to the appellate court. So they're wanting to deal with it. We'll see. I think we're going to be good for a while, and because this is a temporary order, this isn't a permanent injunction. This is a temporary order. Our court case will continue in the Illinois Supreme Court on the morning of the April 14th. May 14th. This is April. Tomorrow's May.
Yep.
May 14th, I think 8:30 in the Illinois Supreme Court, because it is a temporary, and we are going for permanent. We want this law overturned permanently.
Right.
So we're still active in that case.
Yeah. Well, guys, we get calls every day, or we see people that are really interested in this. 2.5 or 3 million FOIA card holders in the state of Illinois that have been adversely affected by this. And so I guess our message probably would just keep the faith, stay strong, let this thing work through the court system. And I think this is a huge victory for the law-abiding citizens of this state of Illinois. And really our visitors, right? Because it put our visitors to this state,
right,
law-abiding gun owners from out of state, it put them under a different set of scrutiny as far as 24 hours or something like that.
Yep. You got to be out of town in 24 hours, just like the Old West.
Exactly.
Don't let your shadow hit our borders.
And we don't have too many corrals anymore to meet you at the OK Corral.
No.
So anyhow, hey, we're 3 weeks from this thing being done, guys. A lot of budget talks going on. We've moved from hearings. The 5 appropriations groups in the houses have kind of concluded meeting with agencies, or at least our group has, and I think the others have too. We've kind of slipped into these working groups that are kind of supposedly going line by line through every budget item. But what was interesting? What's that, Dan?
You say lie by lie? Did I hear?
Line, line by line.
Oh, Chris, I thought I heard lie by lie.
You had a more active that was a knee slapper when they pretend like they're going through the budget with these.
Yeah, well, it is kind of comical to see. It's like, is this like for real? And one of the chairmen says, well, I just want you all to know that there's another level to this process above us.
Right.
So I think that was to help restore some faith in what we were doing in the process, right? That we were there doing the heavy lifting during this working group. So anyhow, but there is one item that we want to talk about real quick. What's that, Chris?
I was just going to say, one of the old timers that had been there for a while that he thought that his working groups were legitimate, and he said they met for hours. The wee hours of the morning, had a room that they met in, had paper on the walls or on the windows so nobody could see in. He thought it was serious, and he said after they did all this work, Madigan walks in the room one day, throws down the budget, and says, "There's your budget." And so he's like, why did we spend hours upon hours upon hours thinking that we actually were going to have an effect on what the budget was? It's the same thing you're talking about now. It's a joke. But anyway, right. I digress.
Well, we can talk about this process till the cows come home and probably spend more time talking about whether it's real or not. But I think something that is real and a real concern. Some of our colleagues had a press conference Tuesday or Wednesday. Medicaid, taxpayer funded healthcare for undocumented Americans coming in the state of Illinois.
Well, they're not Americans, first of all. They're undocumented invaders.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to take your line. Step on you there.
You're fine. You're fine. I'll just say amen.
Well,
How about that?
Okay.
this started out about 3 years ago. I guess it was in 2020, I think, or 2021. Going to put in, I think, the seniors, the illegals that were in a 65 years older, just going to cost a few $1,000,000. And every year now, they've added another age group. And I think this year is another House bill to add maybe the next to the last or the last group. The projection for FY 2024, it's grown from 20 million to the number is $990 million. Now, why is 990 million? That just seems like a bizarre number to me. It's just like, why 990? It's just 10 million from being a billion. Why didn't they just say it's going to be $1 billion?
Well, that's why when you find something at the store, you know, it's $7.99. You know, it's not $8. It's you know, your gas is $3.99. You know, 0.99.
Right.
You know, it's so somebody thinks that they know better.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go let the cat in. Hold on. Come on, Bruce.
Well, this is kind of crazy. They just keep adding groups. And again, these are illegal aliens. They're not here legally. And for some reason, some of our colleagues think that the taxpayers of this state need to fund their health care to the tune of $1 billion a year.
And there's no match. You know, a lot of our Medicaid, you know, stuff, we have a match with the federal government, a waiver program. This money is not matched. This is not part of that waiver. We don't get credit for this. We don't get a dime back from the federal government to help subsidize this program. We're seeing, as you know, my background in healthcare, we're seeing nursing homes admit these undocumented immigrants who have no social security number. They don't have anything identifying themselves as being here legally or part of the system. And they're putting them in nursing homes and charging the state of Illinois for being here. And that's how this bill has gotten bigger and bigger. You know, we're now, not only are we a mecca for abortions, but we're going to be, and if we're not already, a mecca for, I want to say old, I guess, infirmed, you know, senior citizens that are not here legally.
Right.
And the taxpayers are paying for it. We're, instead of putting that money into schools or roads, property tax relief, maybe $1 billion. Wouldn't that be nice? We found a way to ease the property tax burden on folks at this point in time.
Right.
I don't know, Brad. I mean, you're seeing it in your committee.
Right. Yeah. Well, HB 1570 is the bill that would add, I think, the final, either the next to the last or the final group of demographics to this. The estimates are 108,400 people.
Oh.
Somebody needs to do the math on $1 billion to keep 108,400 people. That just seems like a really, really big number. So anyhow, budget pressures all around. We've not adopted a revenue estimate. Of course, we've not adopted a revenue estimate for the last 4 years. So why start now, right? And you know, we're hearing that, you know, Chris, I think we were talking about this yesterday. What was it? When the governor took office 5 years ago, what was the budget? About 30-some billion? What was that number?
35 or 36 billion when he came in, and it's grown, 15 billion, while we have been bleeding population so much that we lost a seat in Congress. And I'm not sure how many people you have to lose. What do you have to lose? 750,000 to lose a seat?
In over 10 years, over the 10-year period. Last year, we lost 100,000. Then the year before, I mean, I think if they did the census again in 2025, we might lose another congressional seat. I don't know that for a fact, but IRS said we lost 100,000 people between 2020 and 2021.
Mhm.
Right.
So,
They're,
Yeah,
they're figuring it out.
Yeah, let me pull up a graphic here. There's a report that just came out a couple of days ago. This is IRS data,
mhm.
and the net effect is 105,000 taxpayer families have left the
Wow.
state of Illinois.
So
$10.6
is
billion.
that 105? Is that 105,000 taxpayers, or is that what? How's that number reflected? You know.
So I think it's Social Security numbers go into that number. Okay, so it's 105. I think it's 105 Social Security numbers.
Oh, okay.
So I think you're right, Brad. I think it's 105,000, roughly 105,000 taxpayers.
Mhm.
Well, you have a family of, you only file one tax return. I mean, that could be 200,000 or 300,000 people.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
I hadn't thought about that.
Right, and this is a good way to track. Gentleman from south of St. Louis came to the General Assembly about 10 years ago. He wrote a book called How Money Walks, and he is able to get this data from IRS. He wrote a book. There was a website to the same name, howmoneywalks.com. I think it's still a real thing, and it shows the migration from state to state, in and out, in terms of population and in terms of adjusted gross income.
Yeah.
And it's just staggering what's happening with the money that's moving out of California, out of Illinois, out of New York, and it's moving into these low or no tax states like Florida, Tennessee, Arizona, Texas, just to name 4.
Mhm.
Right.
But this is a real problem, and of course the governor, he was all over this. He thought this was exactly the right data that he needed to hear. He was glad for the report, I'm sure.
He's a denier.
I don't know what what's that?
He's a denier. You know.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's logic.
Right. Right.
Well, it goes along with their woke agenda because they basically deny a whole lot of reality and a whole lot of different topics. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Another big issue, guys, we're hearing, and this could be a long conversation, but we're just going to talk about the CO2 pipeline and carbon sequestration. Big subject matter hearing Monday afternoon about that, I think it was. Pretty hot topic in central and northwestern Illinois, and with this proposed 1,300-mile pipeline. Dan, you guys were both part of that committee, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had the House and the Senate Energy Committees, Public Utility Committees. It was a joint Zoom hearing.
Mm-hmm.
There were the ability to ask questions. We had several people on the committees ask questions. It was rather informative. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I think there was someone else that was building one of these pipelines that it got too expensive. And I'm just going from memory. I think I read an article last week somewhere. I'm gonna have to start taking better notes. But we'll see what happens. The environmentalists don't like it because what it does is it's taking the CO2 out of the primarily ethanol production plants,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want anything to burn gasoline,
Mm-hmm.
or ethanol blended gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel that by putting this pipeline in and reducing the emissions of these ethanol plants, that they'll be allowed to continue to operate. They're going to meet their EPA goals. So they're against it. The landowners, we heard from a couple of testimony was it 2 ladies, Chris? There were 2 ladies, I think, that testified about their family farms, and they didn't want to have another pipeline dug up through their farm. Mm-hmm. But the industry is I think is pushing forward. If I had to guess, I would guess that this is going to happen. we had ADM gave a presentation at the Decatur Conference Center on Thursday morning at a big citywide meeting, and they said that the sequestration, I don't know what you want to call it, the infrastructure, the substructure is like 800,000 acres or something. I mean, it's Illinois, Indiana. I mean, it's a great big bowl is how they defined this area that they want to sequester CO2 in. And it just kind of happens that right here, this Decatur, and I don't know that there's, you could find the exact center, but somewhere in this central Illinois region is pretty much the center of this geological formation. And we were told it's like a bowl. It's like a great big salad bowl over a mile down. And it's, if you look at it, there's a depression, so somewhat that they're looking at. And I don't know, it's geologically pretty interesting from a science standpoint. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, Chris, don't you find it kind of interesting that Central Illinois, or this several 100,000 acres across maybe 2 or 3 states, has and I don't doubt the science. I mean, maybe they say this is the perfect geology, but we also have the perfect soil and land mass for wind towers and solar fields. I know you're kind of sensitive to that, Chris, to these solar farms and these wind farms going up. I just find that interesting.
Are you trying to provoke me to wrath there, Brother Halbert?
Well, I think it leads us in. I think it leads us into your graph that you have behind you there on the wall that shows that little blue corner up there, where the majority of the legislators live, that don't want any CO2 in that area. They don't want any wind farms in that area. They don't want any solar fields in that area. They want it in that big red area that's like 90% of the land mass. Now, why is that?
It's pretty incredible that that little blue spot up there is what we refer to as the bad idea factory. They just keep sending more people down here with more bad ideas. There's one thing that I want you to remember that I said this, is none of us are ever going to die because of CO2 in our atmosphere. Our atmosphere is comprised with about 0.04%. And for those of you that have had the modern math, 0.04% is a very, very small number when you think about the global atmosphere. And so there's no reason to fear, to build pipelines. There's no productive farm ground with solar panels. There's no reason to cover some of the greatest farmland in the world with windmills, because this is a scam issue. People are scamming billions of dollars off the fear-mongering crowd that have tried to convince children that we're going to die, just like AOC said. If we don't do something crazy and spend billions of dollars and enrich all of our global enemies, that we're all going to die. Well, it's not going to happen, because I know that people that are tuned into this are as old as I am. And if you remember, there's been 3 major climate events in our lifetime. The Great Freeze Out when we were kids, the great global warming where the earth was become a frying pan, and all of the developers on all coasts didn't get the memo because they continue to build in California, Florida's coast, and all up and down the seaboard. So obviously the ice caps didn't melt and the land was saved. And now they're trying to throw out this idea that we're going to change to death. And remember, I said this, is none of this will ever, ever, ever happen. And so we are wasting all these resources building a house of cards that is just absolutely insane. And we need to get our head out of our rectum and start using our noggin, start critically thinking about all these issues, and understand that you are being lied to on a daily basis. And somebody, hopefully, there's 3 adults here in the room that are going to say, this is stupid and we need to stop the insanity before we totally destroy the economy in Illinois and the United States of America, the greatest country on the planet. That's my little rant. Thanks for bringing that up, Brad.
Well, and I hope that wasn't too much truth for some folks. I think our viewers are probably okay with that. Chris, you've been talking about a number, that farm that's in Coles County. Did you say that would take about 500,000 bushels of corn production every year?
I mean, not that particular one, but if you started adding up these solar fields, I mean, I think that one over there, isn't it 12 or 1,300 acres over there? And
it's every bit of that. I thought it was 1,600, but
yeah. But if it is at 200 bushels an acre, you do the math on that, you get up to over 300,000 bushels of corn pretty quick, right? Because most of that ground's capable of averaging 220, 230, you know, in a normal growing year. And if you do the quick math on 1,600 acres at 2, that's 320,000 bushels. And so I'm guessing that with highly productivity land, I know that all that land had a system tile under it, so it would very easily be capable of topping 200 bushels an acre. But just that alone is, like I say, in simple math, is over 300,000 bushels of corn off the market, out of the export market, not going to feed animals or people or anything. And it's just, when you see that multiplying itself, I mean, agriculture is the driver of the economy in Illinois, and really, you know, and definitely in the Midwest. And it's a big deal when we start taking tens of thousands of acres of productive farm ground and planting solar fields that are producing. We aren't exporting electricity. We used to export electricity, but no more. We solved that problem.
So,
it's just uncanny how the leftists in this state, the leftist Marxists, the ones that are continue to have control of Chicago, the ones that continue to have control of Springfield, solve a problem like exporting energy to our neighbors. It's like, I didn't think that had a problem. I think we were enjoying low costs or lower cost. We definitely know our energy costs were way less a year and a half ago or a year ago than they are today. We know that.
We know.
And because they implemented CEJA in the fall of 2021, within 6-8 months, it started driving our energy cost up.
Another bad idea from the bad idea factory.
Yeah, guys, I just did some real quick math. If you take 1,600 acres at 225 bushel, that's 360,000 bushels. If it takes 10 bushels to finish a pig out, that's about 36,000 pigs. What would be the yield off of a hog, Chris? 150, 175 pounds of meat from a pig? What would be the number?
That'd be fair.
So if we do that, that's 6.3 million. If my math is right here, and I'm doing it on the run, which is dangerous. That's 6.3 million pounds of pork that's not being produced anymore. And what's the average American consume? Do they consume 20 pounds of pork a year, 30 pounds, 40 pounds?
I'm not sure what that number is, but I sure
let's just say 40 pounds. That's 150,000 people, almost 160,000 people that will either have to pay more for their pork or be without.
Could eat meal or beef.
Eat meal or beef.
Yeah. Well, it takes about 50 bushels to take a steer to glory.
Right. So yeah, it depends on your taste, right? It's 6 to 1/2 does the other. It's taking that out of production, which is going to drive the cost up. It's the same situation with electrical. When you cut that production down, when you cut the supply down and the demand is there or greater, it's going to drive the price up.
Right.
Not a good policy decision.
No. And it's coming home to roost up north. MISO, where we are, we've suffered through that this winter. PJM, which is the northern part of Illinois, with how many? 4 nuclear power plants, but they still can't produce enough electricity to satisfy the need. And they're going to, they've got 2 rate increases coming at the ICC because CEJA allows it, permits it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing the ICC can do.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
they're going to start feeling it up there.
Right.
And then we'll see what happens.
Right.
When it's okay when we're suffering down here, they don't care about us. But when their constituents start suffering, when their big skyscrapers, power bills become unpayable, when their grocery stores in northern Illinois can't afford their electric bills,
mm-hmm.
We may see a change around there, or there may be an attitude change. We'll see.
Yep. Guys, hey, we need to kind of probably wrap this up. Busy week, 3 days this week, and then the next 2 final weeks is 5 days, Monday to Friday for the next 2, as we head into Senate bill deadline week, a week from this Friday, to get Senate bills back out of the House. And then as we march to that May 19th deadline, I want to bring up a graphic here about an event coming up this coming Saturday afternoon. This is going to be a pretty big deal. You gentlemen want to speak to this?
Well, there's the 4 o'clock is the big rally. I think they're going to try to surround the Capitol, link arms and surround our Capitol and pray for all of us and Illinois in general. It's Turning Point USA, I think, is the main sponsor. People want to know more about it. I think they can get a hold of any one of us, and we can give you a little more details.
Right.
I think there's a rally before that. I think, Brad, 2:30.
Yeah. There's a couple of different things going on. I think there's some invitation only, but this one is open to everybody, and you can scan that QR code. We've got it up on most of our social media sites and going out in emails about it. But Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, is kind of heading this up along with some other individuals. And so just want to invite everybody out. I think the weather's supposed to be pretty nice, maybe too nice, but maybe we're going to get into some spring weather finally, and we got that coming up. So I just want to make sure.
National Day of Prayer is coming up on Thursday, and there will be a prayer breakfast there at I can't remember where it's at.
Well, the State House Inn, which is a block north of the Capitol, and they can go on. So the best place to find that is go to Illinois Prayer Caucus on Facebook is the best way to find out about it. There is an RSVP link. You need to have a ticket to get in, and so you'll need to RSVP if you'd like to come. Seating is limited. But
how do they do that, Brad? I mean, if they want to come, is it open to the public or?
Yeah, it's legislator. It's a legislator thing, but we're open to the public. We've got different members of the public that's going to be participants in it. We got a nice little program. Peter Breen, that you mentioned, one of our former colleagues, that the Thomas More Society will be there. It'll be our guest speaker that morning. But they just need to go to that link and click on that so that we can make sure and have proper accommodations. I'm going to put the timer on it. It's got to be done by Monday tomorrow afternoon because we've got to turn the number into the caterer. So that is time sensitive. But Illinois Prayer Caucus on social media would be the place to find us, or message any of us, and we can get anybody to that to make sure that we've got their name on that list. So I don't have a graphic, Chris. I sure should have, but I didn't get one. But
that's fine. Yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah. Dan, any closing thoughts, Dan? And we'll go to Chris, and then we'll close out.
Oh, great. Thanks again for hosting us, Brad. Always fun to sit around on Sunday night and catch up with you guys. Looking forward to seeing what's coming up this week. I know that people will be shocked and amazed by some of this legislation that we'll see on the House floor. But we'll continue to represent you, stand up and fight for you. Hopefully we can beat back some more of these bad bills. And then Tuesday night, I think we'll be back on Tuesday night. I think we've got a program Tuesday night.
Right.
So we'll plug that. So
Tuesday
thanks
night,
again.
7 o'clock. Yep.
7 o'clock Tuesday night. So we'll see you all Tuesday. We'll see you all Tuesday.
Excellent. Chris?
Well, I know I just encourage everybody to take advantage of to not forget the National Day of Prayer on Thursday. I mean, both in the nation and also at the state capitol. I know that Brad has initiated prayer caucus coming back, and so we meet once a week and pray there at the Capitol, a group of legislators, and that's a great thing. But you know, the Scripture exhorts us that men ought to always pray and not to give up or not to lose heart.
Mhm.
And I know that darker it gets, the more that we need to hit our knees daily to pray for our state and to pray for our nation, because we're literally living in perilous times. And take advantage of the opportunity you have there on Thursday. Take advantage of the opportunity on Saturday afternoon. Be great to just swell Springfield with a great crowd of God-fearing patriots to surround the Capitol and pray for repentance, pray for revival, pray for maybe a growing amount of gray matter that lives inside our skull. And so we could make better decisions that would actually positively impact the state of Illinois as we move forward. But just, hey, we have hope because the Lord's still on the throne. He's still in control. He knows what's going on. He knows the end from the beginning, and in the end we win. Maybe a little uncomfortable at times, but hey, sometimes you have to experience some discomfort for growth. And so keep on keeping on.
Well, true, Chris. And the thing is, though, we can't do this passively. We have to be active participants. All that this stuff that we do is not a spectator sport. We've got to have everybody just as a part of being a citizen in these United States. It's we the people, and we have to take an active role in making sure that we push back against a tyrannical government. And so, yeah. So, yeah, again, just one last plug on the prayer caucus stuff. I know there's a renewed effort to bring public back to the Illinois General Assembly on days that we're there. And so Illinois Prayer Caucus on Facebook would be the best place to plug into that and find out about that and about events that's going on in Springfield for both public and legislators. So, guys, with that, I'm going to hit the outro, and we'll see you Tuesday evening.